In this demonstration, we're going to show how the Boardwalk application engine has been used to automate and scale the cost of risk application for collecting information across multiple projects for different types of risk associated with insurance. In this case, we've been able to take information that is being used in Excel today across different types of risk for workers' compensation, directors and officers liability, other types of liability and coverages, a bunch of different data measures, and then information that's detailed specifically about the line of coverage, how much things cost. Really everything that is in Excel today is used as is, including the formulas that are being used in order to add the information up. And this works consistently across all the different tabs that might be involved inside a workbook. So this is the cost of risk summary. Then equally there's also a tab associated with property and with payrolls and with the workers' comp loss summary. And what you might notice is that there's a column over here on the left that says project. And in the past what would happen is they would have a single workbook for a given project, and then they would email a workbook out to somebody who was responsible for that project, and those people would all work in their own workbooks, and everything would be emailed back and forth, and somebody would manually have to consolidate all the information, figure out what's changed, create all the latest versions, and then once all that information is pulled together, then they'd be able to see a report that showed all the different projects together. Well, needless to say, there's a lot of issues about emailing back and forth, cutting and pasting, trying to figure out what's changed. Boardwalk solves all this by taking what's inside of the Excel spreadsheets today and then taking advantage of an access control capability where we can say, for example, add a column here called project name, and then here we have 3 different projects that are all active at the same time. And then using access control we can say, you know what, I want to be able to make it such that some users have access to everything, but broker 1 only sees project Goldfish, and broker 2, for example, sees, or forward, and broker 2 sees project Goldfish, and maybe the underwriter only sees workers' compensation under a type of risk. So using the information that's inside the workbook itself, rather than having to write special queries in databases, you're able to make it so that when different people are interacting with the data, they're only seeing their information. And then rather than email back and forth, changes are shared through these commands up here on the top. Once the application's set up, then everybody receives a blank template with just a welcome tab in it. And right now I'm assuming the role of manager. But if I switch over here and I look at what broker 1 sees, you'll notice that in the cost of risk summary, there's only the data for the project name forward. Because you remember from the access control, we set it up so that this user, broker 1, is only seeing the information for their project. So the Boardwalk database knows where the information is supposed to go and takes care of putting it in the right spot so that the users are able to access it. And then if you want to make changes, you do it just like you do today. So I can come in here and say, let's make this be 200,000. You can see this, the formula updated. And then I'll come over here and I'll put in some commentary and say my changes for today. And everything that people do in Excel today works exactly the same. And I can come in and maybe say, make this one be 31,000. And as I'm doing this, I'm able to look at local reports and see what's changed based on the multiple updates that I've done. But then when I'm ready to share my changes, I say submit. And the system says, well, who are you? And at this point, it connects to the database and it says, okay, find the changes that are inside this workbook, and then take only those changes and push them to the database and make them available for other users. So I'm going to associate a comment with this saying these are my changes, and then it looks at the changes in the database, takes only those, sends them to the server, and makes them available for the other users. And every user does this independently using Excel on their desktop, and then once the changes are complete, they'll say, hey, this update's been completed, and then emails can be sent, other types of notification be completed. But otherwise, as I go back now over to the manager, and here now the manager is seeing the data from all of these, when I do a refresh here, logging in now as manager, then it looks at the database and it says, okay, tell me what's changed, and only bring those changes into my workbook and update the cells that have been changed. Now this is quite different than connecting a database to Excel normally, because if you refresh data from a database into Excel, it would go in and erase everything and just overwrite it, whereas in the case of Boardwalk, only the cells that have changed get updated, and the change comment inside of Excel is used to identify the old value and the new value. So you'll see that as these numbers are refreshed, there's been a change here that says it's now 200,000, right, which is the change. And if I hover over it, it tells me the value's changed from 190 to 200,000, or this one's changed to 31,000, or this text has been changed and it says now, so you can see the text has changed from changes to my changes for today. So you're guaranteed with Boardwalk to always have the most recent information when you click on refresh. In addition, you're able to take any of the cells and say, I'd like to be able to see how this cell has changed over a period of time. So in this case, I said, show me how many changes have been done to this cell over the past month. And on demand, it will create a report that shows me all the changes that have been done and who's done them. And essentially what's happening in the background, if I say, show me the changes to this entire table, and the table is a worksheet inside the workbook, the database is keeping track of who's interacting with the data, when are they doing it, and exactly what are they doing. Are they adding rows, deleting rows, adding columns, updating cells? And this can all be controlled, determining who can do what. And for example, if somebody needs to add a column, you can add a column and that will automatically show up in everybody's workbook, or you can make it so people can't add columns. But the main point being that what used to be run inside of Excel and manually handled across many people with email and cut and paste and check in, check out, is now automatically managed inside the Boardwalk database with a single version of the truth, and it can be integrated and connected with any other system, bringing both data inbound and outbound, and supporting any type of reporting or summarization reports or any other types of data or information with the data.